real estate journey. Can you just tell people that don't know who you are or anything like that, like more about yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Dwayne Jordan. I own Yenom Holdings LLC. We're a company we're based out of New York, and we operate in multiple states. Where I also own RE. I'm just an investor. Besides that, I also own my own construction company where I do my own in-house construction on my properties, and I own a lot of other little things or whatever, a lot of other businesses. But my main thing is RE.
So how did you kind of go about getting into it though? Because like you were saying, like kind of like you started from like low income and just kind of like grinded your way through it. Can you just kind of explain like your more or less your beginning?
Yeah, so a lot of times, even I speak with my with people who consult because I do a lot of consulting on real
Hmm.
estate. Is that a lot of it, almost all of it, has to come from budgeting, and you have to be able to live within your means and
Yeah.
understanding finance. So the key to RE success is always in financial. I'm sorry, is in in literacy. Like if you don't
Yeah.
understand how finance works, how can you manage money or property? So once you understand that, I think the biggest thing for me was just compounding the wealth that my properties were generating and redistributing those funds back into the RE market to keep purchasing over and over and over. I never went above my income needs. I always stayed the same. So no matter how, in other words, what I was saying is no matter how much I made, I still lived my lifestyle like I was making $50,000 a year at work every day. That's what I did.
So how did you go about getting the first one? Because usually, well, from my talking to people, usually the hardest thing is getting going, getting that very first deal, and
Yeah.
everything like that. How did you go about getting your very first deal? Like, what did
So
that
my
look like?
first one was my first property, which was my only property I ever used bank money on. That I used a 203K rehab, and it was a foreclosed property that I purchased from the bank. It was a multifamily, and I literally saved up and saved up, and that was my down payment. And I paid that property off within like 3 years. It was a that was I think the key to it
Oh
all
wow.
is that having a good start is the key to a great finish. And I'm not gonna say I knew what I was doing because I didn't know nothing about real estate. Let's be honest here. Like I literally stumbled into something good that in my mind made sense. Although, I remember like this realtor that I was dealing with. It's a long story, but like when I first we first pulled up to the property, I remember it was like dead of winter, and she was like, "I'm not getting out of the car." She's like, "You can go look if you want." She's like, "It doesn't seem safe over here," and I was like, "No, I'm dead serious." So I went through the property. So I came back. I'll never forget. The property was listed for $20,000. She said, "What do you want to offer?" I was like, 65.5, and she goes, why would you pay like 40,000 over for this property? It's not worth it. I was like, no, that's what I want. And she was like, well, fine, it's your money, whatever. And I did it, 65. So it's so funny. So the appraisal came back, and it came back super low, and it was like that I had overpaid for the property. And the appraisal, the man who did the appraisal, I was like, look, it's worth more. And he was like, what do you know? You don't know anything. He was like, I'm telling you, I've been doing this for. He goes, I'm not putting my name on it, so I'm not changing the appraisal. I was like, all right. So the bank made me come up with that 40K since I had to fill in that gap. So I said, all right, fine, I'll fill in that gap. So they were like, it's not going to appraise, it's not going to appraise. What ended up happening was the property was on the border, and it was in a town. The city at the time that the property was that they thought it was in was very bad, like high crime area. So the appraiser didn't even come out. He used street photos and said, "Oh, it's in the city. It's not worth anything. It's worth 20." When we finished and we closed, they did an appraisal after I did my FHA 203K rehab. Mind you, I was in it for 65.5 with a 20K rehab. The property came back at the time and appraised for over $250,000. And I
Oh, there
was
you go.
like,
No.
I told you it was worth that. And that's how we started. And I remember my loan officer, he said, what does it feel like for you to just scratch a winning lotto ticket and just win? And I was like, I don't know. And that was my first property. And
Pretty good.
How long? What year was that?
this was in 2014.
2014. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, what?
Now,
Where were you?
what made you get into real estate? I mean, have you always had this interest in investing, or what sparked your interest?
No, I didn't. I had a long career in law enforcement, and what ended up happening was I just always felt like, I'm first generation entrepreneur, and everybody in my family has always just been, just workers, and there's nothing really you could, tell them. And I think like growing up, one of the hardest things I saw was like everybody was always at work, always at work, always at work, and I was like, wow. I wonder if the narrative had changed and it was like, hey, we needed more money. Let's create another stream of income as opposed to
Yeah.
somebody working overtime or getting a second job or a third job. So I didn't want to work myself like my family until I died. Like I just saw
Yeah.
it like, no, there's got to be an easier way. And I started with, like I said, this one, and which now it has a term, they call it house hacking, whatever. Back then it was a house hacking.
Yeah.
Like, all these guys now, like it blows my mind. Everybody's a guru. Everybody's like, oh yeah, and the house hacking and I'm like, bro, let me tell you something. You know what it was called for me? It was called common sense. I'm gonna live in one side. I'm gonna let them pay the mortgage, and I'm gonna go to work every single day, and I'm gonna put that money in my account and then buy another property. It's not called house hacking. It's called
Yeah,
common
it's
sense.
called buying real estate and renting it out, right?
Yeah, it's called 1 + 1 = 2. That's what it's called. But whatever. So I did that with the first property, and I was like, wow. When the average income, when you start doing the research, the average household is paying almost 80% of their salary for housing. Once you remove that from the pot of what you're working for, you can save money. And at the time, everybody used to make fun of me at work. I swear, like when these guys hear this podcast, they're gonna die laughing because I had this old Durango and it was all rusted out. And everybody used to be like, "Why don't you get a new truck?" They're like, "Yo, you make enough money." I was like, "Nah, I got a plan, bro. I'm gonna keep rocking this
Yeah.
thing."
Dream.
I was like, old Betsy was good to me, man. I used to come to work with tons of gravel and sheetrock hanging out the back, and hey, and then
Yeah.
So long story short, I did what I was supposed to do. In the RE, I started my company in 2013. I didn't use it until 2014, and I've been retired now for 3 years. So it's been
Oh, congratulations.
yeah,
Congrats.
thank
Yes.
you.
Awesome.
So you had the first one, you snowballed that one, and did you start buying cash after that? Because you were
Yes.
saying that.
Yeah. So the first one was the 203K. After that, everything, I'm a cash buyer. So I just moved forward, and at the time, it was great because the market was allowing me to purchase cash. I mean, you could go in literally and purchase something for like 30,000, and it needed the rehab, but it worked out great because to come up with 30 cash when you're collecting rent and you're working full time and working overtime, that's not a lot of money. So
Yeah.
now you're acquiring these properties. And then, I was like, hey, get a Home Depot card, take out, for my materials, and then just start doing a lot of the work myself. And yeah, and it just snowballed. Then you get 2 on the row. You're like, okay, cool. Like we're going to keep this up, and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7, 8 and 9.
Where were you at when you were buying these properties? Were you
In New
located?
York,
New
in
York.
New York,
Okay.
and yeah, and in the Hudson Valley of New York.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah,
Okay. And then
now the market is crazy here. Like those same products, it was so funny. Like I was buying brownstones for like I think my cheapest brownstone I think I brought out in New York. I paid 22,000 for it, and yeah, it's worth a few quarters now. So
there you go.
When you say the Hudson Valley, I don't know New York that well. What's the Hudson Valley?
in the Hudson Valley, it's the Hudson. So what it is like you have the Hudson River that runs up New York, and they call it like the valley. It's like in between, like I guess quote unquote, like upstate and New York City. So we're about 45 minutes north of Manhattan. Coming up the
Oh, so I
valley.
bet people commute from where
Oh
you
yeah,
are.
yeah. We actually have a train that goes right from here, right into Grand Central Station or Penn Station, wherever that is, down in the city. So yeah, it's commutable, very much so. Like almost a lot of people that live here do work in the city and come up here every night. I think it's like an hour train ride or a little bit less, something like that.
So the desirable area.
Yeah, because it's like you can work down in chaos and then come home and have a little bit of calmness. So it's like the best of both worlds, and it's not a crazy commute. And they, like I said, it's the train. So a lot of people do the park and ride. They just park and take the train down to the city. And once you're in the city, you don't need a car. Once you're down in Manhattan, you can't do nothing with it anyway.
Yeah.
So So when you were starting your business and everything, did you get a lot of like hate from like a lot of your peers and friends or anything like that? Because you're
Oh
doing something
man,
different than
this is
that
the part
they're
of the
doing.
podcast I've been waiting for. Let me get close to the microphone. It was so funny because I swear to you now, like I try to never bring it up, but I used to be at work and I would tell all the guys in my unit, I'd be like, yo, guys, you got to get on this. And they were like, you don't know what you're talking about. They'd be like, oh, you're stupid. You're going to be here just like us. Or you're just a daydreamer. I was like, no, I'm telling you, I'm going to make this happen. I was like, I'm going to retire. They're like, I remember this one guy told me, he was like, get comfortable, kid. You're going to be here a long time. And I was like, all right. And then sure enough, I saw him on my way out when I retired. I was like, you get comfortable. You're going to be here for a long time. I'm done. And it
That
was like, it was great. But yeah, a lot of people now they call. Like everybody's calling, you know.
yeah.
Uh,
How do you do it? How do you do it?
That's the thing. Nobody believes you until you're successful, you know. And at the time, like there wasn't a doubt in my mind. It wasn't that I come from anybody who's an investor or I knew anybody who was an investor. I just understood common sense and I understood that waterfront brownstones have to appreciate. Like I just knew that I didn't know if it was going to happen in my lifetime, but I knew that at some point it was going to be worth something. So
yeah.
Any
Huh.
waterfront property.
yeah.
Yeah. I think that's pretty cool though, because I mean, a lot of people, like I guess through your journey and everything, you always start with like a lot of hate, and they're like, "Oh, you can't do that," and then they start like whispering and gossiping you behind their back, and then they start like, "Oh my goodness, this person can be something," and they're start gonna say like, "Oh yeah, I know him. Yeah, I
Yeah.
did it." So it's
Yeah,
cool to kind of hear see the journey. But what kind of made you different? Because I mean, there's no difference between all of us and all that stuff like that. So what made you like be successful and everything? Was it just like your mindset or
so I sit down like I'm really analytical with the way that I think, and I always try and think of like what are the common factors that make people successful versus people who aren't. And the only thing I can really come up with is my drive. I work 7 days a week even now. If you look on my Instagram, you see like I work. And I work with my guys because I believe in setting example and you have to lead by example. I work like legit work, like in the field. And everybody's like, you can't work in your business and on your business. I'm like, "Yeah, you're an idiot. That's the same people that say house hacking. Like, come on, stop using these terms. Stop. You
oh,
can do both. Like, and I'm living proof that you can do both.
Yeah,
yeah.
So, yeah. I
we're a
mean,
society that has to rename everything.
yeah. I mean, everybody loves like the genre. Like, let me just change this word because then it's mine. Like,
Yeah, I
absolutely
mean
not.
it makes sense.
But I
It's
feel
branding.
that you have to work. You have to have the ability to be a self starter. Number one. So if somebody's to tell you to get up at 9 o'clock, it's already too late. You should have already been
Yeah,
up. And I feel that you have to almost to a certain extent, like be able to shut yourself down, shut the noise down around you, and just have extreme focus. Like it's very hard, but the determination of me is just like I come from like nothing, like so I know what it's like to be there. Like I don't want to go back to that. So and people are like you still out here hustling like it's your first property, and I'm like I love the game and I like winning. But I come
yeah,
from an era where, in my age group, competition was a good thing. Nowadays it's like taboo. But like I love playing sports. I love competition and I like I'm in competition with myself now. I'm like, what did we do last year? We brought 6 properties. We need to get 12 this year. For
Mhm.
what? It really serves no
yeah.
purpose, but it's like fun. It's fun at this point.
So do
So
you have something like kind of like almost bigger than yourself, like your why, like really what that was your purpose through all this everything, rather than like proving all your coworkers wrong?
I
Like
don't care about proving people
what
wrong.
what drove you? Like what was your? Because they always talk about like successful people, they always have a drive to like purpose, or something that's bigger than themselves or anything like that. Like did you have something that kind of like really that you wanted to create? Because that's what I was talking to a guy the other day, and he was talking about the biggest difference between not successful people and non-successful people is successful people want to be creators. They want to create things. They want to
Yeah.
make things and stuff like that. And they always have this purpose. So I was wondering if you like had what was your goal when you started this? I know it was originally just not to work, retire, or
Yeah.
anything like that. But you've already retired. So what's driving you now? Like
I mean, so The legacy part about it is great. And I have a daughter, so like that was always like part of it, was like being able to leave it to my child. And the other thing is like, I remember what it was like going on job interviews and trying to sell myself to someone. And I was like, my daughter will not even know what a job interview looks like. Like she doesn't want to. Like she never has to do any of that stuff. And I think that besides that, like really, my true why I think in myself, because now it's like past that, is just that I always say this: I want to see what I'm capable of achieving in the time that God gives me. Like I don't want to be mundane, and it's not a money thing. It's just like, hey, we all have the same 24. If I can create 10 times more than the person sitting beside me in my 24, like that makes me happy. That lets me know that like I'm operating on a higher level. So I'm just very competitive, even with myself. Like I
Yeah,
just
I
like
got you.
to
I
do
see. I
things.
see. I see your company sports shirt on, or
Oh,
sports
oh
sports
yeah,
shirt.
I wear my company all day, every day, everywhere. I even have we even got a surfboard. We got Yenom on
There you go.
surfboards. We got everything. We got Yenom holding everything in this house. If you could look up here, this is called Yenom Way. It's actually a street sign. Like,
There you go.
Yeah, I love it. So did you find a mentor? I know a lot of people say they find a mentor or wrote a book or
I
anybody.
didn't. I didn't. I never read. I've never read Rich Dad Poor Dad. I've never read any of these books. I've never read any of them. The one thing that I did do that I can tell people is true was truly helpful in the beginning, because in 2013 and 2014 there was no Instagram gurus.
Yeah.
This is something that popped up because people want to make money overnight. This is just like a someone it's a fad. What it is what happened was back then, you were on your own, and it was either you knew somebody who did real estate or you figured it out. But there was a lot of blogs back then, and I remember every night I would go home and I would like Google like what's a 203k rehab, and people would write. Like the one thing I really loved about it was people would write their transparent experiences. So they would say, oh, when you get to the table, you can buy points back. And I remember I got to the table and I was like, I want to buy a point. And they were like, who told you about that? And I was like, oh, I read it on Google. I was like, it was on the forums. And people were like, because but people would tell you, oh, don't do this and do that. And it was like very like that was one of the most helpful things that I could honestly tell anybody getting into real estate. Like go on the forums and read people's personal accounts of a situation that you're trying to do. They have nothing to lose. They're not getting any solicitation, any payments from any companies. They're gonna tell you, don't go with this bank. The underwriting is horrible. Don't do this. Go with this guy. Don't deal with these type of people. Like, yeah, it's
You talking about the Google forms? Just like go on Google and look at forms,
yeah.
or you?
I went on Google Forms, but then there was a lot of like private, like just like bloggers that like real estate bloggers back then. I don't know if they still exist now. I'm quite sure
There's a
they
lot of
would.
blogs
I'm
now.
quite sure they would. But then
There's a
again,
lot now.
one of the issues, like I spoke to, I was talking to one of my friends today. She's in finance, and I was telling her too much information is just as bad as no information, because
Yeah.
Yeah.
you have a lot of people out here that have no real estate and yet are preaching to you on how to own real estate. And that's scary too, because you have people that are like putting people in bad situations and they don't know what they're talking about. So yeah, it's you have to be able to vet it out. And I tell people all the time, I'm like, oh, if you hire a mentor, you hire an individual to do something for you, ask them to show you some deeds, tour some properties. If they don't own anything, like what are you doing? So
Yeah, I understand.
yeah.
So you started in like the Hudson Bay, like buying houses and everything. Because I know now you do like international stuff. Like, so what made you go international and everything?
So my end goal is never to stay here forever. I like to wander around the earth. I love traveling. That's my like my vice. Like I love going places all over the world and like meeting like locals, eating with locals, talking with them, seeing how they live and asking them like I love that. Like just learning culture. And I thought that it would be great to have a vacation home or a home where it's like half of the year I stay out there, and we're starting, we're building out there and taking it from
Oh,
there.
so I got you. So you'd say like, oh, I really like this place. I'm gonna go there. I like buy a vacation rental or whatnot, and then basically like set up your network out there, just like
Well,
places you'd like to be, kind of thing.
I mean, it'll definitely be an Airbnb. That's still gonna make money. Like, yeah, it's still a business, But when I'm there, it'll be mine. But the rest of the year, it'll be everybody else's.
Right.
Okay,
You know,
I got you.
it's all
After
assets. There's no such thing. I don't own no liabilities. I only assets.
there you go. So was it hard doing that though? Because I feel like everyone it's kind of safer here and everything like that. I don't even know how would I go about like buying something international or international bank accounts. I don't even know how any of that stuff works. Can you kind of
It
explain
is.
like all that? Because I feel like it's kind of a lot. Just if you can simplify
It's
it.
a lot to explain, but it's not a. First off, the U.S. is not safe. Other countries are way safer than here. Believe me when I tell you. That's number one. Number two, you know, out there, it's a lot different because one, the developers there offer financing. And most of the developers will offer you financing literally if you're an accredited investor at 0%.
Sheesh.
As long as you're building from the like so during the duration of construction, they'll give you financing because their mindset, which is it makes sense, is that there's technically no tangible asset as of yet. So they're giving you 0% financing through them. Once the asset is complete, then you have to get a mortgage on it. But if you can pay it off before completion, then you never had to pay any interest because it was never actually truly an asset.
There
And
you go.
that works out great. I mean, because once you convert US dollars, it's definitely feasible for Americans to do. It's very feasible.
So what other countries do you invest in outside the United States?
So right now we're just focusing South America. I haven't really moved much. I want to like start going like Venezuela and stuff like that. But you also have to look at current events that are happening. I'm very cautious about stuff like that. And plus, I've just started, so I'm still testing water, still beta testing. You don't want to dump too much of your money into something, and then it's like, oh shit, this is bad, and now I have to get my money back from another place. So yeah, I'm testing the water with that. So I can't say that I am an experienced investor out of the country, but I am yet still an investor outside.
It's just like it's that's kind of new to you, just like kind of how like you really familiar around here over
Yes.
like overseas is kind of like new and you're just kind of figuring
Yeah.
it all out. Okay.
Yeah, I'm putting the pieces together, and it's great. And being able to travel, pretty much every other month out for business is fun. You get to business and a little pleasure, and it's cool. And you get to like I learn so much every time I go there, and I meet more creative people, more business minded people, and on top of that, the hustle is real outside of the U.S. Like
Yeah.
man, because a lot of the developers in South America are European.
Hmm.
So the designers come directly from Europe, and a lot of the people that are like brokers and stuff like that are indigenous. They're from the from the land there, and but they all hustle as a conglomerate as a whole. Like they're just all trying to get the deals done, and like I respect the hustle. Like they operate on like such a high level. Like I'm like yes, like I like this. Like there's no standing still. There's no walking. Like we're running all day long. I like that. I like to run.
There you go.
Yes. You
So,
know?
I guess from like everyone's trying to find like really good investments, everything. Do you feel like you get really good returns outside the United States, or like and like you were talking about Venezuela? You know how like you're talking about the real estate gurus are always talking about like there's a formula for everything, like cash on cash return on investment, all that stuff. Do you feel like outside the United States you've found like you get better deals, better
I mean,
return on your investment and stuff? Because you're talking about how like there's countries safer than the United States and for investing.
so there's a I mean that formula would have to be a lot more extensive because you're also now dealing with currency exchange rates like that. For me it's different because not only do I plan on building, but I plan on like staying there partial parts of the year. If you were going to solely, a lot of guys here turn and burn. They don't, they use Burr method and all this other stuff. So they're not into this for the long term. I don't. I personally wouldn't like. first of construction takes too long out there for that to be a turn and burn, because you have to understand everything is built in concrete. There's no
Yeah.
plywood, the 2x4s, and we're good to go. Everything is hurricane rated. So, it's a lot different of an equation as opposed to sitting here saying, okay, well, we're just gonna reno this quick, 1,200 square foot house and put it back on the market in 45 days. That ain't happening out there. So I don't think that market technically even is set up. Everything out there is long term. When you're looking at things, they're looking at short term rentals. You're looking at long term rentals. You very rarely hear anything about a flip, like, because you're looking at construction costs and construction costs. Period. Like, it's not. There's really there's no margins there. So I don't think that
And
that's
I think
really.
real estate stays in families more.
Yes.
Like I know in Germany when we lived over there, definitely they've been in the family for 100 years.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
so
I believe
people
that
hold
too.
on to them.
I mean, because you got to understand, like, a lot outside of the U.S., a lot of people build homes for other reasons. Like, they build homes just for their family. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's not like, oh, and we want to put the pool in. Like, they build a lot of homes out of necessity. So a lot of things are like, I mean, we look at home as like, all right, this is a cool place. Like, I've set this up really nice. They look at a home as like, this is shelter. This keeps us warm. This keeps us dry. So it's a lot of the mindset also. That you have to look at. But I think that overall. The market there, it's more like in any place that's quote unquote like a vacational type place, it would all be short-term rental. There's really no flip. Once you're into it, you have to hold it. Like, that's it. Either you're going to hold it or you're going to probably sell it for at cost. Now, the only thing that's different out there that I have noticed is that so here, they call it capital gains. So like when we have capital gains tax, like, that's bad. We don't like capital gains, right? Right. But over there, they use the terminology capital gains truly as the words. So like to gain capital. So when they start a project, they'll say, okay, this project is 125,000 US.
Yeah.
It'll take 2 years to complete. At the end of the 2 years, with
Yeesh.
capital gains, this property will be 195. So at first I was like, "What are you talking about?" And they're like, "Oh,
What is
yeah,"
that?
because it's not like they're like capital gain. I'm like, what I got to do with the taxes? Like, and they're like, "No, no, no, no. Like, it would have gained value." So that's what they're trying to say is that from the time of construction to the time of completion, I mean, the property prices are growing expeditiously. Like they're like, that's pretty huge from 125 like 175 or 190. Like those are pretty good numbers. But nonetheless, I mean, it's just that you have equity in a property. But everything out there is like different. Banking institutions are different because they don't utilize FICO scores like we do. It's just a different way of moving out there. But
And you said this is in South America?
yeah. Oh, well, any place out there, even when I go to Jamaica, like they don't have there's no banking, there's no FICO. Like that's like a US thing. Like
Yeah.
that's not a other place thing. Like other places, like it's like, okay, my dad banked at Citibank, so I have to bank at Citibank.
Yeah. I
That's
see.
that's
I see
how it
what you
goes.
mean.
And then it's like, oh, you have a good job. Okay, you can afford this much money to pay for this car, or you pay for this house. That's it. Like, that's it. It's not like, oh, well, did you pay? Were you late on your cable bill? Like, it's not. Right?
I know.
Yeah.
Do you manage all your properties yourself, or do you have a property
No.
manager for all these? I
So
feel like that'd be real difficult.
in New York, I do. I manage them myself. Outside of New York, I don't. I have management.
Oh,
But
okay. So you say you do have management outside New York?
outside of New York, I do.
Oh, okay.
Inside of New York, I manage my own.
Yeah, because I can imagine like overseas that'd be really difficult
Oh
to.
no, you can't do that out there. Like, that's crazy. No,
Yeah, I feel that'd be
no,
impossible.
they have it all set up. Like most of the buildings, when you build like the condos out there, they call them autonomous builds. They come with property management, advertising. They come with everything in house. Like, you don't do anything, but literally, like, it just creates you money. Like, if something breaks, you get it sent the email. They take care of it. That's like, it's all done. It's just, they're called autonomous builds. Like, you don't do anything. You just
Were
pretty much pay for
were
it.
they like little compounds, like a little mini resort, kind of fenced off or something? Or
No, they're all like 6 to 8 floor, like buildings,
oh, okay.
oceanfront.
Hmm.
That's
So
it.
are these local builders just like, hey,
Nah,
how,
the
how do you get
develop
even hold of that?
so the developers are from, like I said, the European, and they take care of all of the local whatever labor, however they take care of it. And pretty much they have the design already set up. You just pick out whatever unit you want and they build it to spec. Not only do they build it to spec, but they actually have design and they furnish it and everything. Only thing you do is come inside and put sheets on the bed. It comes with a bed, dresser, TVs, refrigerators, like painted. It's
So
done. You don't do anything.
it's a
So
real
they're
passive income, I
actually
guess.
they're selling properties to be Airbnbs, basically, is what
Pre
they're
pre pre pre-made Airbnbs. Like so, look,
made
you just
Airbnbs.
invented a term. That's
Yeah,
gonna be the next term, right?
That's
yeah,
certainly true.
yeah. So
Yeah.
that's creative.
I mean,
That's
it's
pretty,
it's a great concept. If you ever like sit in on any of their like when they're putting together like their prospectus, like first off, it's very well thought out, and you can almost tell every developer by their buildings, by like their marks. Like every building almost looks identical, like from the street. Like it's super modern, contemporary, very like European and beautiful inside. Like sharp lines, clean lines, very neutral colors. It's beautiful. I mean, like anything that they have could be in Manhattan. It's very well put together, but it's like it takes the guesswork out of it. So if you're like, oh, I want to have an Airbnb, but I don't know how to furnish, you have to do nothing. You pay this guy, and when you're done, just go in there, go to Walmart, and grab some sheets.
Yeah.
That's it. All you have to do is pick out the sheets. And I'm quite sure they'll probably pick them out for you if you said I have a problem picking out sheets.
Oh
hey,
wow.
Um,
so like, how does someone like, let's say for instance, like someone who has no experience and they like listen to this podcast and they want to get to do that? How would they even go about like finding the person in the area? Like
they'd
what?
have to they'd have to go to YenomHoldingsLLC.com. Book my time. My consult thing is right there. It's a little button. Just press it, and that's how we do it.
So
So what's your formula for buying in New York?
So, a lot of people come in, they're like, well, what's the percentage you use and blah, blah, blah. There's two ways I go about it. Number one, I buy below market, period. I'm never going to pay market rate because the market, I can never be at something where if something goes down, I now have a liability, not an asset. And the other thing is I always look at ROI. That's all I really care about is ROI. And if the ROI, typically the rule of thumb is 5 years. If it's within 5 years, then it's considered a good investment.
Would you
Pre-COVID,
explain ROI right quick, just in case someone doesn't know?
so the return on investment, so whatever you've put into the property that you're supposed to be able to technically collect all of that within 5 years, that makes a good investment. So if you look at the rents on a property, if you're getting 1,200 and 1,200, you times that by 5 years, per month by 5 years. And if that is what your purchase price is, then technically it's considered a good investment. Pre-COVID, I used to do 3 years. So that lets you know that I purchased below market. Now that rates have, the property values have went up, I'm at like 4 years. I'm still never going to go to 5 years. If I'm at 5 years, I'd close.
so
I'd
you're
pass.
more or less looking for like a 25% return, basically year over year, because then times 4 that would be 100%.
Yeah, it's got to be around there, around the 25% mark.
Are you still able to find that? Because I know like right now it's been like kind of crazy and everything like that, but.
Yes. Watch my thing. I just got right before you messaged me, I got an email. So I'll be closing this week on 3 more buildings.
In New
So
York?
yeah.
New York. Are you still doing Hudson or are you
Yeah, all Hudson Valley. Yeah.
okay?
Yeah. I just
And
I just wander around.
so how do you go finding all these deals? Just networking or
So some of them are networking, and then the other thing is one when I speak with the owners, and another thing that's going to end up happening ultimately because of COVID is you're going to have a lot of people who are in financial straits and they're going to be desperate. You got tenants not paying rent. Like, what can you do? You're gonna have to sell. That's ultimately what's gonna happen. These properties, they're not like that, but ultimately, this owner, he's tired of New York. He's ready to retire, and I get a lot of properties from landlords that are just tired. Because you have to understand that in this game, there's got to be an exit because this is a stressful business. Like you can't do this. You can't. I couldn't be 60 years old dealing with these phone calls and these politics. Like
yeah.
you can't do it. You can't. Like you have to set yourself up for an exit because I mean, at some point you have to say this is part of that exit plan. We're going to liquidate this, or we're going to, do whatever, how we're going to pass this on or whatever. But it's, so I buy a lot of buildings, but I want to say like 90% of the people I purchase buildings from are landlords that are retiring.
Yeah. And you just reach out to them, like find out, like see a distressed property in areas, like, hey, just reach out to them. And is that how you kind of go about doing it?
No, so a lot of people in the Hudson Valley, my company is very well known. A lot of people reach out to me about properties. I also have a bunch of realtors that I deal with that let me know. I mean, I close quick. I'm a cash buyer, so
Yeah.
they like it because I mean we can get to the closing table in 5 to 7 days.
Yeah.
So if they bring me a deal, we can hurry up and close on it as long as it makes sense. So you got people that are I got motivated realtors. That's like the key to anybody doing any of this. Never deal with realtors that are like part-time realtors and people who like do real estate, in between, PTA meetings. Like, nah, either you're in this or you're not in this. Like, we're either gonna do it or we're not gonna do it. So I want somebody who has the same drive as me. Like, yeah, we can make this money together, but like you gotta hustle just as much as I'm hustling. So
Yeah, I got you.
get yourself some good realtors and you'll be fine.
Yeah, right now it's getting the people to hustle. Come on, you have an extra $100,000 in your pocket so we can overbid.
Yeah, but that's a dangerous game because if that market corrects itself, which is gonna correct itself, and then you have people that are upside down, that's when you start falling into a lot of issues where like, where people buy a car and the car salesman beats them in the head and they get them for all types of interest, and now all of a sudden they've overpaid for this vehicle. Now next year model comes out and they change the body style on it, and that car is worth 20,000 under what you paid for, and they're like, I don't want this no more, and they just get up and walk away from it and they come and repo it. They're gonna do the same thing with houses.
Yeah.
People are like, because ultimately what's going to end up happening is the guy across the street is going to come in next year and pay $150,000 less for the same house that you got across the street from him. You're going to be like, I don't want to pay. That's us as people. It's like, well, why should I pay $150,000 more for the same exact house? And that's when people just say, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, I was in 2008. I remember those days.
Oh yeah, I wasn't in it back then. Yeah.
So if someone's trying to get started and listen to this, what would be your best advice for them to get started?
So number one, definitely save your money. Like save up as much as you can possibly save. Like come to a bank or a realtor with literally decent money. Like you're not I got $5,000. Let me buy a house. Like that's not going to happen. The other thing is to educate yourself on the different type of mortgages that they do offer. Because one thing that I learned is with my first deal is that every bank offers different items. So like the 203K rehab was offered by my bank, but a lot of banks don't offer 203K rehabs. So ultimately, you can get pre-approved with a bank and be cheating yourself just because you went to, this is the bank that I used for my savings account. So I went with them for a mortgage, but they could like offer absolutely none of the items that you could have gotten from another bank that, at a lower interest. So, a lot of people are saying to use mortgage brokers. I don't know anything about it. Like I said, I've only, my one time using it, but I would do my homework before I started. Like I would ask questions. I would like, because you have to understand, like I would, as an individual, I would say, am I going to come in for a rehab or do I want turnkey? If I want a rehab property, fine. I'm going to use a 203K rehab. I'm going to use a 203K rehab conventional. I'm going to use a 203K rehab FHA. Like, what I mean? Like, do I have enough money for a full down payment or do I need some assistance? I'm like, do your homework. And if you have the money, consult. Like that's one of the things I wish I would have had when I started out was consultants. Like I consult a lot now, but it would have saved me so many thousands of dollars in error if I would have had somebody that just said, hey bro, just go left instead of right. Like, and now I consult with people in my other businesses. Like I pay for consultants because they help me streamline my other businesses. And people don't really understand that that's really how you streamline a business and get to the top fast. Like that's the express lane to success is consulting with people who are already like, pioneers in that business that you're trying to, excel in.
Okay. So I guess of all your experience, what is like the worst story that you've had in real estate? Because I can feel like you probably have Tons of them. I just want.
I don't know. Um, Jesus. I mean, I've had tenants destroy apartments. I've had people not pay rent. I mean, these are all regular stuff, though. Like, when, like you think it's bad to you until you sit down in a room full of like old landlords, and then you're like, oh my god, like, like I'd be sick if that happened to me. So, like, I kind of feel like my bads are like blessings compared to some other people's bads. Like, I don't even want to like say what's bad because right now I know there'll be like some old landlord listening to this and be like, "You think that's bad, kid?" Like, yeah. So yeah, I think it's like overall. Let's put it like this: overall, my bads and my goods, I'm appreciative for all of them because it
Yeah.
really helped me like realize how to move the next time. And I think it's like a culmination of good and bad that have like literally put me on a track to now where I'm like, it's just so repetition, so easy that I can just like I can do it in my sleep. So, I mean, you can't appreciate the good without the bad. So, yeah.
Well, there's anything that you would tell yourself when you first got started that you wish you would have known?
Yeah. Don't put carpet in rental units. That was my first unit. Yes. Don't do that. Yeah. Do not put carpet in rental units. That would
Why? What happened? Why did you? How did you learn that lesson?
Well, so I remember my first unit, my first 203K, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm going to be downstairs. I was like, so I'm going to put carpet in the whole building, both units. I was like, and I'm going to go with the most luxurious carpet and heavy padding because when the people walk at night, I want their feet to feel comfortable. Right? So anyway, 6 months later, I'm like, hey, they're like, oh, we need to fix something or whatever. I'm like, all right, go inside. There's bubble gum on the carpet. I'm like, my beautiful carpet. Like, yeah. So anyway, that carpet had to go in the garbage. So long story short, don't put carpet in rental units.
Yeah,
that's what I learned. So that was a complete waste, but it was a learning experience. That was a good and a bad right there. So it looked really nice. The bad part was they destroyed it. The good part is I'll never do it again. So,
well, have you ever had something just hysterical happen to you? Like, I don't know, just I had a dog eat. I had to take my shoes off the door, and their Doberman ate my shoes, my slingback brand new heels. And she kept trying to put her shoes on me, but they were way too small for me. It's like, so has anything as hysterical ever happened to you?
Man, my tenants are hilarious. I love my tenants. Like they're like we have a great time. Like literally, you get my tenants on the phone, like I crack up like when I go over there. Like I mean, it's sometimes it's like not even funny, but like sometimes like bad stuff like be happening. I just like, bro, what's wrong with you? Like, what are you doing? Like what type of life? Like, what type of life do you live? Because sometimes, like, oh man, they're just. I remember one time this guy, I was dating this girl, and I was telling her what happened. I said, this tenant said that a guy came and stole his doghouse. And he's like, you have to do something about this. They stole my doghouse. And I'm like, so I'm telling her, and she's like, you got to stop lying. And I'm like, I'm not lying. I'm telling you, like, somebody stole this guy's doghouse. And she's like, all right. So one day she's upstate and we're like in the car. So I stopped by and he's like, bro, did you get me a replacement doghouse with that? And I was like, I told you I'm not lying. She was like, holy wow. She was like, I really thought you were making up all these stories about everything that was like happening. And I was like, no, like this is really my life. Like stuff like who steals a doghouse?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like you can't even make that up because like who really steals a doghouse? So it's just interesting, like stuff that I think like on the day to day, like when people call me up and they're like, I broke the refrigerator and the stove, and I'm like, how? Like how do you break a refrigerator? Like you put stuff in it and you just close the door. Like how do you break it? But they break it. Like these are things that like honestly I've never replaced a refrigerator in my life. Like I brought one and when I move or whatever, it's still there. Like I've never seen like the end life of a refrigerator. Like I've like I've never seen the end life of a stove. Like I just it's
So Kim has some crazy property management stories. She actually saw one of hers on the news one time, and the bomb squad was busting down the house. That's one of the craziest ones I heard was one of hers. But
yeah, you just called me. I was drinking wine at a bar.
That's one of those calls you never want to get. Like you never want to get. Like hey, turn the news on. You never want to hear as a landlord turn the news on like that. You never want to hear. So, God bless you with that one. Jesus, I would have. I'm very high strung like as is, and like I have like my anxiety would have went through the roof. I'd have been like, what's happening? Like I gotta get to the bottom. Like, nah, I couldn't deal with that. I couldn't deal with that.
Yeah, it was crazy.
So, so I appreciate you coming on here and really telling us a lot of your story and everything. I learned a lot. But I guess your biggest advice would be like to for anyone starting out is just hey, just know all your options and everything like that.
my
And
yeah, just
finding deals are the hardest part for you, especially people that are trying to go in it. Because, like you were talking about, like let's say they don't have that established network, like you did, and they want to get into it, and they don't want to buy above market, which is extremely tough. That I feel like that's like very hard for a lot of people, and that's what I feel I hear a lot from new investors who are trying to get into it.
well, a lot of people that so the one thing I can honestly say is that like I said with the analytic and looking for what the common denominator is among successful people that will say to a realtor, "I need you to find me properties," and then just go home and sit down.
Yes.
No, it don't work like that. So the other thing
Thank
is
you.
personality. If you, this is what I've learned. If you don't have any personality, you're never gonna be successful. Solely because part of this business is you have to network.
Yeah.
You need to sit down. So like if I want to buy in a certain area and I know nothing about it, I can literally go to a coffee shop and sit down and talk to a stranger and be like, oh, I'm looking to buy a house. Oh, my cousin's gonna sell his house. He's tired of being like, really?
So I got a guy.
This is it. Like, but people don't understand that it's something as simple as a conversation. But in today's world, nobody really converses with each
Yeah.
other. So when you go to these places, like I talk to strangers, I network, and I get a lot of deals from strangers. Like people are like, oh, my cousin, they're looking to downsize, and oh, my aunt is it? Yes, yes. Like, oh,
Yeah.
give her my number. And you just be fair with people. And that's another thing too that's being lost is just be honest and be fair with people. I asked them, "What's your number?" Well, we got to get this number. Cool. If it's a number that makes sense for me, I'm not going to negotiate with you. That's fine. That's your number. I'll give it to you. If
Yeah.
it's a good number, you give it to people.
Like
Everybody
creating
wants.
win-win scenarios.
Yes. What do they say? The only good deal is a deal when both parties walk away
Yeah.
happy. That's it. And I always believe in that. So all my deals that I've ever like walked away from, I've never had another side of the table be upset on the deal. And because of that, I think that every deal has always been a good deal because I feel like you got what you wanted, I got what I wanted. We're good. I have no bad blood. No, in business, no one can talk nothing on my name. Like I pride myself on conducting myself as a great businessman and setting the tone for my company. I'm very like big on my brand. Like so when I deal with people, they're like, oh yeah, he means business. If I say I'm gonna pay you this, what I say we're gonna close on this date, we're gonna close on this date. My attorneys know what to expect from me. Everybody who works with me knows what I expect, and I expect like a very high level of productivity and us making sure that not just I'm good, but the seller is good also. That they're comfortable. You
Yeah,
know,
I think you have to be true to yourself. That part about you said about personality. For many of us, when like when I was young back in the days, you're so afraid to be who you really are. Like I'm from Texas. Sometimes I drop some cuss words, and and when I finally just decided, hey, this is
yeah.
me. I think that so many people put on this salesman facade.
Well, yeah, you'll forget who you are, and people will fall in love with you for you because you can sense when someone's being fake. I don't care what you say. Like if somebody that's not them, that's not them. I'm the same way across the board. I mean, I'm not cursing because we're on this thing, but let me tell you, like day to day, but that's from like my years of law enforcement. Like
Yeah.
I just talk like that. But now, like I'm very like I feel like you have to be you unapologetically, be true, and just be honest. And like it'll be okay. Like the deals will work themselves out, you just gotta be honest. Like I remember there was a property I brought in Cleveland because my company, like I said, we're in multiple states in the United States. And so in Cleveland, I had a property and there was this building, this woman, she inherited from her father. He was an old landlord. He passed away and left her the building and she had listed it herself on Zillow. So she called me. I called her up and I was like, "Hey, I'm interested in your building." She was like, "All right, but I have an offer already on it." I was like, "Okay, well, did you sign the contract?" She was like, "Oh no, the guy sent me the contract and told me to just sign the contract and then he sent it back." And I was like, "All right, well, look, this is how I'm gonna give it to you." I was like, "I don't know you and you don't know me, but whether you sell your building to me or you don't, I'm telling you right now, don't do that." And she was like, well, why? And I sat on the phone with this woman for like 2 hours and I explained to her about what she needed as far as representation. I gave her my lawyer's numbers out there that she should use. Like, because the guy was pretty much taking advantage of her. And when it was all said and done, she called me back the next day and she was like, well, what do you think is a fair number? So I ran the comps and then I sent her the comps and I was like, this is a fair number for your property that I think. And she goes, all right, it's lower than what he said, but I'll take it because I trust you.
Aw, see?
And and that's it. And that's the key is like you take your time and you be genuine with people and not trying to get over on anybody, but people will respect the fact that they're not being taken advantage of sometimes more than money because people automatically assume that money is paramount, but to some people principles and ethics is paramount. So you can't automatically assume that a dollar equals, loyalty, because some people it's not about the money, it's about how you made them feel. So, that's how
Yeah.
I try and maintain.
So if someone
Good
wanted to
advice.
get connected with you and know more about you, where would they find you at?
So Instagram definitely. Yenom is Yenom underscore holdings
His
underscore
shirt.
LLC. Yeah, my shirt. I'm surprised you didn't even ask what Yenom Holdings was.
No, I
And
did.
What is Yenom Holdings?
oh, you know what it is? Go ahead.
What is it? Tell
No,
us.
no, he said he knows what it is. Go
Oh,
ahead.
I don't know what it is. I just remember I saw it from Instagram. That's what I was saying. From I
Oh,
didn't know I don't know the meaning behind it.
Yenom is money backwards.
Ah, I didn't think about
Oh,
that. I got you. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
So he said that's real. So yeah, so it's Yenom. So yeah, they can reach me on Yenom Holdings, Yenom underscore Holdings underscore LLC on Instagram, or through the website, which is Yenom Holdings LLC at gmail.com. I'm sorry, Yenom Holdings, YenomHoldings.com, and then email is Yenom Holdings at gmail.com.
well,
All
great.
right.
That sounds awesome. It's fun talking to you.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I appreciate
Of
it.
course, it was a pleasure, and I'll definitely make sure I follow along your journey. And I think you're starting a podcast too. I think.
Yeah, I just got my stuff today on my little fancy equipment. I was like, I'm gonna be like this guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. This you're gonna be good at it. The
Yeah.
personality, I think, is why. That's why I watch some of them. The personality.
Yeah, I want to just because like hey not just real estate. I want to talk about all walks of life because I think
Yeah,
like there's just so much more, and I know so many people of all different backgrounds. Like I want to bring them in just because I'm like I want your point of view on everything, and I want everybody
Yeah.
to understand it. And I just think it's like such a melting pot, and there's just so many different views that like because I like to just sit down with people and just talk about stuff. And like
Yeah, and
I think
honestly, like ours isn't even all about like real estate. The real estate's in the name of it, but like the name of it says like changing the game. Originally, I wanted it to be changing the world because my goal is to help guide people through finance and everything. Bring like on amazing stories like you to kind of like truly like give people everything they possibly need to be successful and like build businesses along the way that like kind of helped bring people up. So I feel like my mission and my journey is like, how do I help people be successful? That's what I want to do.
Well,
And then that,
inspiration is the key to
yeah,
success. If people
yeah,
aren't inspired, they're not going to be successful. So
yeah,
you're doing what you need to do because you have to be able to see it in order to achieve it. So if they can see something, and especially someone or something that's relatable to them, then
yeah.
they'll definitely do it.
And
So yeah,
there's so much negativity in the world and everything like that. And if you want the one thing more powerful than negativity is a powerful story. So that's what we're like trying to do. Is how do you bring on powerful story that truly help inspire people to be better, rather than us all like everyone just trying to bring each other down. Well, it's like you said, like all your network success is a team sport. Like
yes,
us all doing it together, all helping each other. Imagine what the world would be if we all truly like helped each other be successful instead of like trying to drag this person down. We all try to lift each other up. So
yeah.
that's what
I
we're
love
all.
I love the positive part because I know I will listen to Les Brown a lot, and his thing is, okay, if you have a negative story, if you were beaten, whatever happened to you, rewrite it. Just
yeah,
rewrite it in a positive way, and never talk about it as in a negative. And I thought, what a great idea!
yeah. Change the narrative. And the other
Change
thing
the
is,
narrative.
yeah, just change the narrative about life. But it's just you're going to be good because there's people like the other thing that I was explaining to everybody is one thing I've learned also about my entire journey is that you're never going to get the support or advice that you need from your circle. It's going to always come from strangers.
Yeah,
Strangers are going to be the most helpful people ever. They're going to give you all the opportunities that you need, and they're going to help put you in positions. But in order to get to those places, you have to speak to them and you have to network and you have to come out of your shell. If you're like an introverted person, you got to figure out how to get out of that because that, like, there's no success on the other side of that
Yeah.
conversation. The other side of having that coffee is success, and you really need to just broaden your horizons. So I tell everybody, I'm like I'll meet people and they'll be like, come and consult with me, and they'll say I want to be an investor, and I'm like, it's probably not going to work. And they're like, why? I'm like, you have no personality. Like, you need to.
I feel
Sorry.
like everything could be every skill and everything like that could be taught and learned. Because like me starting this podcast, it was super hard for me because I hate
Mm.
talking so much. It's like, but my mission and what I want to do about really help changing the world. And I was like, I have to like come out of my shell and talk more and everything like that if I really want to make a difference, like I say I do. So
Yeah, you can't be a silent changer, right? Like
yeah,
you can't change things being quiet in the
yeah,
corner. Like you got to
yeah.
talk. So
And a lot
yeah,
of people who talk a lot shouldn't be talking a lot. So then it's like you kind of need to
yeah.
do something. So
Well, again, thank you for having me. I
Yeah,
appreciate you
thank
guys
you.
on.
It's nice meeting you.
You too. Very nice meeting you guys. And I'll keep
and
following. I want to see some more stories and stuff. I like what you guys are doing over there.
I
And
appreciate it.
Thank you.
What's the? Have you figured out the name of the podcast you're trying to name?
I haven't, but I think I'm leaning towards 60 seconds of nothing where we talk about everything.
That's cute. 60 seconds
Hey.
of nothing. I like it.
Yeah,
There you
60
go.
seconds of nothing where we talk about everything. So
Yeah.
that way it just opens it up and we just have a good time. I think it's more like just the vibe. I just want everybody to be relaxed. We have a great time. And we're gonna do actually some of the shooting and some of the stuff at my lounge because I own a lounge too. So
There you
we're
go.
gonna
That'd be
go there.
perfect. That'd be
Yeah, we're gonna
perfect.
go there. We can just hang out and talk. And I just want to, I think when you're more comfortable in a comfortable environment, we speak about things. And I think, but it's like without judgment and without bars. I just think we should just have a free conversation because I respect everyone's opinion, whether it's my opinion or it's not. I think that it's cool to be able, like, I know it's taboo now, but I think it's cool to, like, oh, that's your point of view. All right, I respect it. Like, I don't gotta
Yeah.
like it, but I can respect it.
Yeah.
I think that's the key to our future is learning how to talk, accept the fact that we're not all the same,
Yes.
and agree to listen to the heart of what the problem is, and then trying to see if you can resolve it that way because we're not getting anywhere the way we're doing.
No,
I
because everybody is being selfish. Everyone is just looking for what they want. It's not asking the person beside you how would what you want affect them. It's always
Yeah.
about how it affects me. It's not about
Yeah.
everyone else in the room, and that's what's really important. Is
Everyone is all out for themselves. I guess I read this one book one time. It says like everyone's natural instinct is to be selfish and everything. I think it was like How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. He talks about like everyone's natural instinct is to be selfish. Like if I showed you a picture of like 20 people, first person you're gonna notice is yourself. Like it's like your natural instinct that
Mm.
everyone's no matter who you are, his natural instinct is yourself. But you almost gotta like trick yourself to like almost your goal is just to serve others, serve others, serve others. So at least that's what I try to tell myself every
I'm
day.
gonna